Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Nintendo Switch 2. Because the system itself on the surface looks really cool. I like the controllers, I like a lot of things about the Switch. The first Switch was one of my favorite handhelds of all time. It is one of my more used consoles as it has Pokemon. And I have to admit, as somebody who grew up catching them Pikachus and them Charmanders, I fucking love Pokemon. I still do. I'm a grown child. And the reality with the Switch 2 is that I would almost solely buy just to play Pokemon on it. Again, there are just some issues with the Switch 2 that I do want to discuss because as somebody who cares a lot about preservation and the history of games and being able to access the media past the server's expiration date, there are some things here that I find really weird and or just outright wrong. Or anti-consumer. There's a lot of anti-consumer here too. One of the things with the Switch 2 is that the price, of course, is to be expected. It is for the $50. I think that is fairly okay for a console at this point. It is about the same as a PlayStation 5 as far as I know. Like, it is roughly what I pay for my PlayStation 5. Fair enough. It is like just the price of a new console, I presume, at this point, right? With the better hardware, with the fact that it runs almost twice as good apparently as the Switch 1. And the fact that it has a higher resolution on the screen, all of those things, right? Like, fair enough, it's better hardware. Hardware is expensive. However, what I find incredibly weird is the paywall behind the, like, game test. So you know how the PlayStation had this, like, Astrobot room that you can go into, and it has, like, a bunch of mini games just designed to show you what the system can do. Well, yeah, the Switch has that too, and the Switch 2 has that. But on the Switch 2, you're gonna have to pay for it? That seems a little bit wrong in my opinion. This is a glorified manual that has been sold separately for your system. I mean, come the fuck on. What are we doing at this point? Who's gonna buy that? I mean, I know some people are, but like, why? Why does that have to be a separate thing? I think these like tests are really cool as they show some really usually creative ideas of. And I think it's just nice to see what the system can do, but I will never ever give any amount of money for a glorified manual for my console. I mean, come on, I am already paying for the $50 for this. I think it is fair to get that manual with it. It's just one of those things that to me doesn't make any sense. Like, why is there a paywall for this thing? I feel like that should just come with the price of the Switch. It doesn't make any sense and there's no reason for it not to come with the price of the actual console itself. It is just really weird and it is super disingenuous in my opinion and really anti-consumer. I don't hope that is something other companies pick up on. I mean, again, that's dumb. Like, come on. There's no arguing about it. It's just a really weird thing to do. Like, unless that fucking manual is a full game, then there's no reason for it. Secondly, and another big thing for me, is that I buy my Nintendo games, along with my PlayStation games and such, physically. I love physical media. I love being able to have a CD that has the entire game on and I can download it, and yeah, there will be a day one patch, but I can play from point A, like the beginning point of the game, to point B, the end point of the game, from that downloaded disc alone. I don't need to have another internet connection or anything else. The reason being that I like that is that you see servers shutting down all the time. The PlayStation 3 store network just shut down, and eventually they might lose internet connection entirely. Like, there is just this thing where for me, I would like to future-proof myself, especially with my games, to the point where I can just do whatever I want with them. Yeah, like, I want to be able to play it offline. I want to be able to play day one, no patch. I want to be able to boot up Elden Ring 20 years from now on my PlayStation 5 emulator on my GTX 456,000 and just run it natively, no problem. Like, I want to be able to have that disc with the entire game on. The issue here is something called the Nintendo keycard system is probably my least favorite thing about the Switch 2. Simply because it essentially means that even if you buy something physically, you will still have to have an internet connection to play it. You cannot take the cartridge that you just purchased, put it into your Nintendo Switch 2, and then have the game play flawlessly from point A to point B in the game. You can't play through the entire game without internet access at that point. Now, of course, that's not going to be a thing for every single game out there. There are probably going to be some that are ported really well and done really right. My issue is that we know with everything where something can be done right, there's just as many people who do it wrong. That's just how it usually ends up being. And I think it's really unfortunate because there are a lot of games that are really cool that I want to be able to preserve. Even if that means just being able to play it without internet, like just have that on my Switch. Not necessarily download it, just be able to slap the shit in and play it without internet one day. Maybe I'm on the plane and I decide that I want to play The Witcher 3 on my Switch. So I take it out, I just plug it in, no download, no nothing needed, just installation. I really want that. I like physical media for that reason. It allows me to preserve things that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to. And I think it's super important, and this is a part of our collective history. It is a part of our culture, and I think it's ridiculous to pretend otherwise. I think games, to at least a certain extent, if not completely, are just culture, just like movies are culture, or books, or any of these other things. They are an art form and should be preserved as an art form. But these attempts at making them entirely digital, all it really results in is us not being able to preserve them the way we are supposed to, the way we can, where we can't save them. Because digital copies are never safe. That's just the reality. There can always be a hacker attack, there could be any of these things. Maybe there's an internet problem one day, maybe the servers that they're being stored on gets destroyed. There can be a million problems. Having them physical is just more, well, necessary. It is just a better way to store them if you want to preserve those games. Because even if a server in Nigeria where they're being stored gets destroyed, well, that's fine. Because you just have the CD, you just slap that in. Once you have it in, it will just install the game and you can still play through it, just without the patches. I think that's fine. And of course, it's not every game that can come out physically, because, well, indie games are indie games and being physical is expensive. And I get that. It's also why the game keycard thing exists. It is because it allows essentially for the cartridge to act as a, well, keycard. It allows it to literally be the thing that allows you to download down the game. It is a license key at that point, and nothing more. But it is not physical media in the way that you can actually take that and just play the game without ever connecting your Switch to the internet, which is what I think most of us want from physical media. Maybe I'm also a little bit of a simp for physical media. I still buy all of my PlayStation games physically. I order them online but get them delivered to me with a physical copy, as I like being able to have that CD. Because as we saw with the PlayStation 3, there is a chance that eventually the online functionalities of those consoles will be shut down, along with your entire online library. There's still a part of me that wonders what happens if Steam shuts down. All of my games just are gone. And of course, it is not every game that can release physically. It is expensive to release something physically, not only for shipping fees, but also just to get things out into stores and all of that. It all costs money, and I get that some indie games especially, they can't do that, and that's fine. But I think for these bigger companies that have the monetary power to do so, they absolutely shouldn't cheap out on being able to buy that game physically. It is anti-consumer, and it is a way to just make you move on to the next product, in my opinion. And I think it's just really unfortunate to see the Switch being influenced more than it already was by that. Lastly, we also have to discuss the price hike of games. I think games are already really expensive. I think $70 for a game is a lot, especially in the state that most games releases in. I think, as most people I think do also agree with, if a game launched bug-free, no issues at launch, no microtransactions, no DLC, simply put, you get a full-fledged packaged game. You know, you get a 200-300 hour game at once. $70 is fine. Like, I actually believe that that is a fine asking point for a game like Elden Ring. I would understand Elden Ring being sold for $70. I wouldn't feel scammed. If Baldur's Gate 3 cost $70, I probably wouldn't feel scammed. But to see some of the other publishers, such as Ubisoft, that are notorious for these sort of things, launch a game for $70, to buy the game, it is broken day one. It is completely just a mess to play. It has microtransactions up the ass. It is bordering on just kink shaming at this point. I don't like that. No. At that point, you shouldn't even be selling your game. That shit should be free. Like, if you're gonna try to attempt to charge me things in the game, and then also hike the game's price up, I think at that point, just release your shit for free. You aren't delivering me a good product anyway. Like, what is the attempt here? I don't really get it, and I don't really understand why it works. Well, I understand why it works, because people are dedicated to the franchises that they like. I kind of get that, but I still don't think it is right. And now that we've established that I think $70 is expensive, then you'll probably also think that the Nintendo Switch is $80 for a digital game, $90 for a physical one that isn't really even physical. That's a lot of dough for a game. Holy moly. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm very interested in the Switch for the new FromSoft game. I think that looks fantastic. I really want to play that. And the thing is, I could see myself probably eventually ending up spending those $90 on it. But also, I don't think that's gonna really be worth it. No game really is worth that much money, even in a completed state. It could be made out of damn gold, and I don't think it would really be worth that money. Maybe I'm proven wrong. Maybe I download one of those games, or maybe I buy physically and I have to connect myself to the internet to download it anyway. And I play it, and I will cry, and I will roll tears of joy down my face as the divine punishment of God for my foolishness for doubting the price tag is stricken down upon me. That could be the case. I don't think that's gotta be the case. I think it's gotta be a fairly solid game. Maybe especially the FromSoft one. But $90? Really? Come on, man. I think the console being expensive is one thing. I think the manual being locked behind a paywall is super fucking weird. I think the complete destruction of the way physical media is operating is a entirely other, really deep or even worse issue. But man, why are we making the games even more expensive? They've just had a price hike. And like I said, I agree with $70. I think that's fine. If your game launches bug free, it is a complete finished experience at launch. Yeah, I agree. You know what? $70, that's fine. But then there's no costume sales, no microtransactions, there's no battle pass, season pass, DLC, add-on, anything else. I don't want to see this shit in an $80 game. And I unfortunately think, especially if people like Ubisoft start releasing games on them, I will probably see that too. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's important to point those issues out, as they mean a lot to me. As I believe preservation, it is one of the biggest not talked about issues in the world currently. Because, of course, there's a lot of things going on in the world, so people don't have the capacity nor energy, nor do they really care to talk about these things. But very much like media laws before the Second World War and all of these things, I think it's important to at least attempt to chronicle and sort of preserve the physical media that we can. Games are, at the end of the day, an important part of my childhood, probably was for you too, and I think there are lessons within the stories that they tell. It would be a shame to lose them because some server, somewhere, went offline as a millionaire just didn't want to pay the bills for that anymore. That being said, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, I'd appreciate that. Thumbs up to you, my mans and ladies. I really do appreciate you hanging around with me, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.